Picture this. You're packing your bags, ready to chase your American dream, but the rules of entry have shifted overnight. Under the Trump administration in July 2025, the U.S. visa system looks almost unrecognizable compared to just a few years ago. Did you know there are over 185 visa categories? But here's the catch. Recent executive orders and policy moves have shrunk the playing field. Whole segments of the world's population are suddenly locked out. Now, you might be wondering, is it really that severe? Well, let's break it down. Multiple visa types from student to business to family reunification are now suspended, restricted, or saddled with new hurdles. We're talking about seismic policy changes, think travel ban too, but broader and deeper. The era of easy American access is over for millions, and the ripple effects touch economies, universities, and families around the globe. So today, I'll guide you through the new U.S. visa maze, what's viable, what's vanished, and what these changes mean for the world's talent, travelers, and dreamers. Let's start at the sharpest edge, complete visa suspension for nationals of 12 countries. Imagine waking up to find every door to the U.S. for study, work, tourism, or family has slammed shut. Afghanistan, Iran, Haiti, Somalia, and 8 more of these countries now face a total freeze. That means B1, B2 business, and tourism visas, F, M, J student, and exchange visas, all immigrant categories, and nearly every non-immigrant work permit are off the table. Why such drastic action? The administration cites national security and integrity risks, but critics argue it's collective punishment based on nationality. The technical term here is blanket suspension, a policy tool that leaves no loopholes. Now you might ask, what about emergencies or reunification? In practice, even medical and humanitarian cases are stuck in bureaucratic limbo. The political message is clear. For these 12 nations, the U.S. is essentially off limits. The fallout? Brain drain, family separation, and a chilling effect on education and investment. These communities are cut off from American opportunity, at least for now. Not every country faces a total ban. For 7 nations, think Cuba, Venezuela, Laos, and a handful in Africa, visa policy exists in a kind of gray zone. It's not a full stop, but it's a relentless slowdown. What's restricted? B1, B2 tourist and business visas, plus F, M, and J student and exchange categories, all are now either suspended or subject to heavy scrutiny. Immigrant visas? Mostly on ice, except rare exceptions. The government calls this enhanced vetting. In practice, that means extra interviews, months-long waits, and a spike in denial rates, what's known as administrative processing. Imagine applying for a job and being told, maybe, but don't hold your breath. Now, if you're thinking, can't people just switch to another visa type? Well, H-1B and L-1 work visas are technically still possible, but approval odds have plummeted. For these 7 nations, access to America is a lottery with ever-dwindling odds. The result? Uncertainty for students, families, and skilled workers, with many giving up and turning to friendlier destinations like Canada or Europe. Let's talk dollars and cents. In 2025, a new $250 visa integrity fee hits almost everyone: students, business travelers, skilled workers from non-waiver countries. But what's it really about? On the surface, it's refundable. The official line: deter overstays and fund border security. But in effect, it's a pre-screening hurdle. Think of it as a security deposit on your American ambition. Now, you might say, $250 isn't much for a Silicon Valley engineer, but what about a student from Sierra Leone? For many, this fee is a formidable obstacle, especially with no guarantee of approval. Economists call this a price signal. By increasing the upfront cost, the government filters out high-risk applicants. But civil rights groups warn it's a paywall that disproportionately hits the world's poor and marginalized. If you're dreaming of America, the price of entry just got steeper, and for some, insurmountable. Here's a headline that stunned academia. In 2025, the U.S. suspended new F, M, and J student visas for Harvard University. Yes, you heard right, Harvard, the global symbol of higher learning. Why target a single institution? Officially, the administration cites national security and alleged policy non-compliance. But it's unprecedented. Never before has a top university faced a blanket visa freeze. Now, you might wonder, does this mean other Ivy League schools are next? The chilling effect is real. International scholars and students are left in limbo, and the term institutional embargo enters the policy lexicon. The conflict here is between academic freedom and political oversight. Supporters say it's about protecting U.S. interests. Critics call it academic isolationism. Resolution? For now, Harvard's international pipeline is severed, and the world's brightest minds are looking elsewhere to launch their futures. Let's zoom in on the world's largest source of international students, China. In 2025, the U.S. is denying or revoking visas for Chinese nationals in critical fields think AI, biotech, quantum computing. What counts as a critical field? It's a moving target, but the policy hinges on two technical terms: dual-use technology civilian research with military potential and CCP ties alleged connections to the Chinese Communist Party. Now you might ask, is this about espionage or just economic competition? The administration says it's both. The result? Thousands of scholars suddenly cut off, research projects abandoned, and American labs left scrambling for talent. Let me tell you a story. A friend's collaborative biotech project lost half its PhD team overnight. The fear? That the U.S. is trading scientific leadership for short-term security? Resolution? For now, the U.S. is tightening the gate on knowledge transfer, but at what long-term cost to innovation and global collaboration? With so many doors closed, what's left open? H-1B, L-1, O-1, these specialty worker visas are technically still available, but under much sharper scrutiny and the new integrity fee. Processing times have ballooned, and denial rates are up by 30% compared to 2023, according to State Department data. It's like running a marathon with hurdles popping up every mile. EB-5 investor visas remain untouched for now. If you've got 900, zero to invest, the door to a green card is still ajar. But for most, these routes feel like winning the lottery possible, but far from probable. Here's a hypothetical. What if I'm a top scientist or a tech CEO? You'll still need to prove extraordinary ability, a technical term, meaning you're in the top 1% of your field. The takeaway? America's open sign is still lit, but only for the elite and the exceptionally wealthy. For millions, the American dream begins with a family petition or a shot at the diversity visa lottery. But in 2025, both routes are suspended for 19 countries, wiping out hope for countless families and would-be immigrants. What are immigrant visas? In legal lingo, they're for permanent residents, green cards through family, employment, or the annual lottery for underrepresented nations. Now you might be thinking, can I just wait out the ban? Maybe, but there's no sunset clause. For the affected, family reunification is indefinitely stalled, and the diversity visa, a lifeline for so many, is now a historical footnote. The conflict here is between national security and humanitarian values. Advocates say these bans risk creating permanent diaspora divides, with children growing up oceans apart from parents. Resolution? Unless the policy shifts, family and diversity immigration from these nations is frozen, with ripple effects for generations. What about those most in need refugees, asylum seekers, victims of trafficking? These humanitarian visas aren't directly suspended, but they're snarled in new red tape and fees. Technical terms like TPS, temporary protected status, and VAWA for abuse victims remain on the books. But processing backlogs have doubled since 2022, leaving applicants in limbo. Now, imagine fleeing persecution only to face a month's or a years-long wait for safety in the U.S. Critics call this constructive denial, a system so slow it effectively blocks relief. The administration argues it's about weeding out fraud, but human rights groups warn that delays can be life-threatening. Resolution is elusive. For now, humanitarian doors are open in theory, but crowded and creaking under bureaucratic strain. So where does all this leave the U.S. in 2025? The technical landscape is one of hyperselectivity and fortress-like controls, but the human landscape is far more complex. America has always been a nation of immigrants, but right now, the gates are half closed and the rules are written in fine print. Is this about safety or something bigger like redefining who gets to join the American story? Let me ask you, if you were shut out, would you wait or look elsewhere? Already, countries like Canada and Australia are welcoming the talent the U.S. is turning away. Now, policymakers face a dilemma: balance security with openness. or risk losing America's edge as a global magnet for innovation and hope. The visa map may look bleak for many, but history shows that immigration policy ebbs and flows. The question is, who will shape the next tide and will America's doors swing open again?